Hello, my name is Megan Cadell, and I have chosen to elaborate on who are good students. My current philosophy includes these essentially like the systemic failure that school systems are, and that school systems are perpetuating racism and oppression, and it is an utter disservice and injustice to students. Students are going to have an incredibly terrible time, navigating these systems with the relevant microaggressions, labeling, and demeaning names, or just labels in general. In order to be successful, my philosophy includes that in a curriculum based on the whole student, accommodating their needs and uplifting their strengths, to advocate for students and families by being educated on community resources, being connected to the school staff to aid in other resources as well, and to be knowledgeable about those resources, to know what your students need, to know how to support them in the class, inside the classroom and outside of the classroom as well. My prior beliefs include that students should be respectful, follow directions, be quiet, they're good listeners, they show up no matter what, they share their life with others, help other students, ask questions, and contribute to the classroom. My positionality includes my identities and biases, and these are very elaborate and interconnected. Obviously, my whiteness is a very huge part of my identity, and I lack an absolute understanding of experiences and individuals of those who face racial oppression. And I was lucky enough to be educated on these, and it still doesn't offer me a complete understanding of oppressed versus oppressors. And being a female has also shaped me as well, and being middle class as well. Some of my lived experiences include a conversation that I had immediately before the start of this class. It was kind of a debate between my boyfriend and I about whether or not you can be racist towards a white person, and I took the stance of yes, you can, based on terms such as the ones listed, like white trash, redneck, as well as various other ones, but not even just really about slurs, but also about just discriminating treatment, poor treatment, and then, so that was a debate that we had, and I will touch on that again a bit further later. Some lived experiences as a female include various unwanted looks, gestures, prolonged physical contact from teachers and superiors. This has happened to me numerous times. I could think of 3 times off the top of my head. I still remember the teachers' names and where I was and where I was sitting, and along with other, small things. And the terms I have listed at the bottom actually were terms I would say I was called more by other women than other men. Being told you're too skinny, eat a hamburger, stuff like that. And then being middle class, I remember we did lose our home when I was in 2nd grade, and I just remember being really scared. My mom and dad used the terms poor and broke, but they never used the term homeless. We were never truly homeless, but my 2nd grade brain was like, I remember losing the home suddenly, and I remember thinking, asking my mom, are we gonna be homeless? We were okay though. But so some pivotal figures in this class include Yasso, Adichie, Frary, Giroux, and Dewey. I included these quotes as I find them to be incredibly pivotal to my experience in this class. Broderick, I would like to elaborate on a bit more. I chose these 2 quotes as they informed my understanding in the following ways. Broderick taught me that intentions are irrelevant when it comes to labeling terms. The words that we use are powerful, and they're not objective. They are subscribed to a greater social construct. And then I also would like to elaborate on Henry as well. These are the 2 quotes that Henry's, this one really, really hit me, especially the story about the young child. And you could just see the true regret of this teacher in the second quote on the right-hand side here. Just the true regret of how this teacher feels about how they handled the situation. And it is just a huge lesson for me moving forward and how I want to treat all of my students. And I want to avoid this kind of regret at all costs. Henry taught me how to view students, and this caused my thinking to change the most out of the entire class. Is deservingness of love and care is based on human existence and nothing else. And it's not based on merit. It's not based on, anything other than just the existence of being human, being in my class. Like, the fact that you got to my class is the reason why you deserve to be loved by me. And we must abolish the current system and rebuild from the ground up. There's too much muddy water. We need to just replace the water. We need to rebuild completely. So a revelation I had is, and this is what I discussed previously about the debate that I had prior to this class, is that racism is a one-way street. I used to believe that racism could occur towards any people group, and essentially I have learned that, you can't be racist towards a white person. A course activity that impacted my beliefs includes this merry-go-round. I really appreciated how this embodied the various perspectives of my classmates and myself. I also really, really liked how it had the opposing argument. I really enjoy, learning about opposing arguments in my entire, just in every area of my life, because it allows me to, have grace for the opposing side. It helps me to not get angry at others who have differing beliefs. And it also helps me develop a rebuttal. My biases include that females should fear males, white students are aware of their privilege, and all my students are from working class families. Ways that I will try to work against these biases is through community engagement log, where I will log all the events in the community that I attend and when I attended them, and how I can learn from those, and then my teacher and then building my library with these books, and then my teacher reflection journal, where I analyze assumptions that I made and how I challenge my own biases and analyze whose voices were represented in my classroom. And then my artifact is a student identity profile. The objective of my student identity profile is to learn about the student as a whole and what makes them who they are, to inform my instructional practices with, their input of who they believe themselves to be. I really also love how this encompasses the family's participation. This helps me see how the family sees this student and gives me a small look into what their life is like at home, and then also really analyzing the difference between, if there is one, about how the family views the student and how the student views themselves, and how I can, be a factor in that and just kind of see the difference and how I can apply that to curriculum and classroom, the classroom culture. Thank you. And how this connects to my philosophy is that this artifact illustrates my commitment to viewing the student as a whole. I want to truly use this to bring the student's culture and home life into the classroom, and also use it as a guide for myself to implement instructional strategies, and then also to see if, of course, if a student needs access to certain resources. You can see for the bottom right 2 boxes, I included a check mark where it says this is private information or public information to ensure confidentiality and comfortability of the student to be able to share. And then, of course, that comfortability should be afforded consistently throughout the class. Thank you so much, and here are my references.